It's strange how often we avoid our own reflection, listeners. Not just the physical one, but the emotional mirror that life keeps holding up to us. The one that shows who we really are beneath the roles, the burnout, the hustle. And sometimes that mirror feels kind, other times it exposes everything we have been running from, our grief, our guilt, even our exhaustion. But what if, listeners, instead of fearing that reflection, we learned to listen to it? Just imagine. So, listeners, on this episode of the Mindful Living podcast, I'm your host, Sana, as always, and today's guest knows that mirror intimately. After losing his mother and spiraling through addiction, toxic work environments, and emotional chaos, Andrew Wilson rebuilt himself from the inside out. And now, as a transformation coach using NLP, timeline therapy, and quantum healing hypnosis, he helps others move from burnout to breakthrough. So, together, we are going to explore what happens when we finally stop performing and start seeing. So, this episode is about the mirror inside each of us. So, Andrew, welcome to the show, and it is really an honor to have you here with us.
Oh, thank you for having me, son. It's always fun chatting with new hosts, and I love to dive into the spiritual realm and talk about like how there's mirrors inside of each and every one of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, I think, let's start with your journey first, Andrew, about the mirror and the moment. Like when you um think back to the moment you finally faced your inner mirror, not the version of you the world saw, but the one you had been avoiding. What was staring back at you?
I mean, I was a very judgmental person, and I didn't really understand why I was so judgmental until I realized that the person that I was actually judging was myself. And that
Mm.
every time that something I didn't agree with something, I was like, okay,
Mm.
well, why is this happening? And then I started to do like shadow work, and I understood that the reason why it's bothering me is because there's something that I see in myself and that person. And it's interesting because you can go to like a public place,
Mm.
you can be in the most positive mood and like you can be happy and everything. And that person just sees you and they don't want to come near you. It's like, it's almost like they see that version of the self they want to be or the version of the selves they wish they were being. And it took me a long time to realize that. Like, I had to lose my mother to basically wake up and just realize that everything that, like, our thoughts are like basically unconsciously, we are aware that we are we are creating our reality, and because we are creating the reality around us, we don't realize that our thoughts actually determine like what happens for our life next. So with me, I was stuck in a moment where I thought everyone was out to get me. I was defensive. I was not able to communicate. I didn't know how to communicate because if I talked in a certain way, then I was made fun of because of just my imagination, how I had so much of a vivid imagination that even my teachers didn't understand me, my peers didn't understand me, and I would try to like basically make up stories for them to like get to like me, and I had to like lie to basically make myself look approachable or anything, and I had to put on so many masks. And even when I worked in the oil and gas sector, you had to put on a mask because if you showed vulnerability, it was considered a weakness. And if like you basically had to take everything that they offered you, whether it be insulting you, whether it be throwing tools at you, whether it be yelling at you. And then I had to take that learnings and I applied it to my next job. And I did the same thing to people. And then I realized that this wasn't working and that there was something that had to change. And my health was deteriorating. I was drinking excessively. I was smoking copious amounts of marijuana. I was smoking cigarettes and I was eating poorly, and my body was just starting to shut down slowly. And I didn't realize it until I started to do this holistic approach and started to eat like vegetables and fruit and just take supplements that weren't like prescribed by a doctor, they were prescribed by a naturopathic. And it was there that I started to tap into understanding that there's more to the reality we see. There's the physical reality and there's the metaphysical reality. And when you get into the metaphysical reality, then the reality around you doesn't seem so real anymore. And it helps you to understand who you are as a person, but also as who you are as a soul. And as you get to that realization, then you get back your power and you don't want to stay the victim. In fact, you realize that life is actually happening for you, not against you.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually very, like, the explanation is quite detailed and profound, Andrew. And um if I can reflect, we'll come to understand, what exactly is this inner mirror, or how can we actually, look into it. But I think personally for me as well, there have been so many moments, where I felt defensive, I felt threatened, or I felt like, I was the victim there. But when things got settled down, I got settled down, like there was this calmness. I tried to reflect back, and I thought that, okay, why exactly this happened? Why exactly that argument happened? What did I, say that hurt the other person? That is, I think that can feel overwhelming, sometimes very disheartening. It can make us feel that, there's some kind of flaw within us. But I think that is kind of, the blooming of the flower, that um, you are now in that particular, uh, you are embarking on that journey where you are now blooming from the inside out. So thank you so much for putting that, down very beautifully, Andrew.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, the one thing I've learned, especially with the quantum healing, is a lot of what we go through in life now is a form of like paying back karma, or it's just what we signed up for when we chose our parents, because we signed a life contract to learn these lessons, and the lessons we continue to learn will, in fact, make our growth substantial, and we just continue to evolve the more that we understand ourselves. The more you, the one thing I learned is you have to love yourself first before you can even get into a relationship or even have friends, because if you can't love yourself, how can you love the others around you? So how can you understand the others around you if you don't even understand yourself?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, you have to have a lot of friends. But when you begin to love yourself, you also get to understand, the ones who are uh, there for you, even in the worst, even in your worst moments. Because we can have so many people around us who could be, there with us in our best or happiest moments. But I think the true test kind of comes, when we support each other during the worst of the moments in our lives.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't understand, like, this is like something ancient from times, but we were taught to think differently. We weren't taught to feel. We weren't taught to express our emotions. In fact, we were taught to do the opposite. We were taught to bottle them down. And that's why people are not well. And that's why illness exists priorly, because a lot of our emotions are bottled down and they festered into something that could be cancer. It could be, actually, it could be like a form of anxiety, even, like, you can
Mm.
determine, like, just by your body now. Like, I learned to listen to my body. Like, a lot of people, like, will eat the wrong foods and they'll self-medicate even though it's your body telling you, like, we don't want this inside of us. We want something better. Like, we don't need this. And it's taught me how to slow down when I'm eating. It also taught me to, like, avoid processed foods, avoid going out and eating, like, junk food, basically, because my body would tell me the next day, it's like, "We're not happy with you right now." And that was the one thing that kinda made me more, in tune and wanted to, like, know more about how our body actually works. And like,
Mhm.
if instance, if your left side is like bothering you, that's something from your past. If your right side is bothering you, that's something right now that's bothering you. And it's interesting, like even with our feet, our arms and everything, they could be like
Mhm.
ways in life that you're not supposed to be going. And it's your body telling you, like saying to you, you're doing the wrong thing or you're going down the wrong path. But to understand that, you have to get outside of the box and stop thinking about like what you were taught. Go and research, go and find out for yourself, read books, like educate yourself. Because the more you educate yourself, the less likely you are to be controlled.
Yep. Yep. And Andrew, mm, so this is more about healing versus performing. Especially when it comes to high performers and leaders, who they look successful, but deep down they are running on fumes emotionally. So, um, do you think our culture rewards performance more than presence? And also, here, do you think that is there any possibility that this particular perception will radically shift, or or is it a still long way to go ahead?
I think it's starting to radically shift already, but yeah, no, we were taught to be competitive and we were taught to work hard and basically work till we fall. But when you actually, like, enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. So if you change the mindset completely and find something that truly aligns with you, it's not like showing up for work every day. It's like showing up to provide value. It's showing up to provide a difference, showing up to help those in need. Like, that's the type of mindset that you get into, and it takes away the work aspect altogether. And you don't even think it's work anymore because you love what you do and you enjoy it. And the more passion you put into something, the less competitive it is. And it's not about being competitive anymore. It's about providing a service and a value to those who need it. And yes, I believe that shift is coming. There's so many content creators out there, so many coaches out there that are like even the coaches that I worked with, Amplify Academy, like that taught me NLP, taught me timeline therapy. They are out there day and day trying to get timeline therapy into people's homes because they want to see people heal. They want to see people well. And because of that, that's providing a service. Yes, it's a business. Yes, it's a form of work, but because you're putting so much passion in it, is it really work? Like, take for instance, you're a podcast host. You love your job, right? It's not the long hours that like bother you. It's the fact that you get to talk to people day in, day out about how they're providing a much needed service in the world and how you are providing a much needed service by bringing guests on like myself to spread this message.
Absolutely. And one thing which I would like to share here, that this wasn't something intentional, as in I hadn't planned it. It like happened. I just tried it out, and this was um almost a year or 1.5 years back that I tried. Also working along, like managing everything along with my 9 to 5 job. But I think those 6 months where I was working the daytime job and also handling this, that is something that really sparked that interest in my mind, that why don't I take this as a full time, because something really aligned with my inner self, that okay, this is something that I actually wanted, but maybe I didn't realize through the way that this is something that will really really um help me grow, help me learn so much. Because until that time, when I was still kind of that particular template, to me it looked like this is the only world that I know. There is nothing uh, out of this world. And if I am excelling in this particular world, then I've achieved everything. But after doing certain episodes, some shows, meeting so many guests, I really kind of, it kind of dawned upon me that there's so much to learn, so much to learn, and I haven't learned anything yet. So I think that kind of left, gave me that motivation, sparked that ignition to, devote myself fully into this.
Yeah, I love hearing that. That's like right there. You just showed that your passion for the podcast you do. So right then and there, that's a shift itself. And if people listening to the show, if you're truly passionate about something, then go for it and give it your all. Because if you're passionate about it, then your business will succeed. It might take time, but if you have the same mindset and you trust in the process, like she didn't realize that she was going to be a podcast host and it just fell in her lap. I mean, anything's possible. It's when you stop looking for it that when it truly just enters your realm and enters your reality. It's interesting how life aligns for us. In fact, we created it, but we didn't even realize we created it. Unconsciously, we thought about it, and our unconscious mind decided to create it in our reality. But you can also there's 2 sides to the coin, but you can also create the things you don't want too, because the unconscious mind is like a 2-year-old. It takes what you want, but if you start putting all these limiting beliefs and all these doubts, then that's what it gives
Mm.
you.
Mm, that's very beautifully said, Andrew. And you mentioned about NLP, and also you also work deeply with the unconscious mind through QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis therapy. But for someone, because still there is a lot of skepticism around NLP, hypnosis, um, quantum healing. So for someone who is skeptical, Andrew, this might sound a little out there. How do you explain what's actually happening beneath the surface?
Well, it's quite simple. I mean, we're in trance pretty well 90% of the time, and we don't even know we're in trance. Like when you're driving, you're in trance because you're doing it unconsciously. When you're eating or watching TV, you're in trance. When you're reading a book, you're in trance. So you're in trance all the time. You just don't realize it. There's just different forms of trance where you get off topic. Well, now you're in another state of trance. Like we're always in trance. So for those who are skeptic out there, pay attention, start to pay attention when you're watching a television show. If you get lost and you look at the clock and it's, oh, how did this happen? Or when you're driving and you all of a sudden realize you're home, but you don't know how you got there. That's because you were in trance. So for people that are skeptics, and mind control does not exist for hypnosis. If those are people are the ones that are thinking that it's all about mind control, you cannot be hypnotized unless you follow instructions. So if I tell you to do something and you don't want to do it, guess what? You can't be hypnotized. So for the skeptics out there that think it's mind control, it's not. It's your choice. It's your mind. It's not me that's doing it. I'm just asking questions to the mind. Your mind is doing all the work itself for you.
Right. That makes sense. And I think it's also fascinating because it challenges the way we define intelligence itself. Like it's always not, mental or conscious part. I think the deepest knowing comes from stillness, not thought.
Absolutely. I mean, it's when you're not using your monkey mind, which we call the conscious brain. When you're not using that brain, you'd be amazed at the thoughts that rise in your head. Now, what my mentors would say, there's the bad thoughts and there's the good thoughts, and you can either let the bad thoughts go down the stream, or you can grab the bad thought and smell the bad thought and absorb the bad thought, or you can also, there's the thing called when you wanna stop a bad thought, you just do the stop sign and you pause the thought altogether and you start to become aware. It's about becoming aware of basically being aware of what your mind is doing, because your mind can control you without
Yeah.
hypnosis, because it'll take you down dark places. It'll take you down wonderful places too. But it just depends on what you focus on unconsciously. So if you're focusing on all the negatives that are there, well, guess what? That's the unconscious mind is going to produce that all in your reality. And that's why there's
Mhm.
lack. That's why there's poverty. That's why there's all these things, because our unconscious mind is reading all this and programming it into our head. It's like when we first learned to like walk when we were a child, we didn't have to think about anything. We just did it, right? Now we have to think about everything we do. Well, with the timeline therapy, you don't have to do that. You basically take away trauma without reliving it and having to go to a therapist for, say, like, I don't know how many years in one session or maybe two, depending on how far you, how much you want to heal, can be wiped away. Not permanently because everything arises and comes back. But you think about that one session over 30-year term, like, how is that any different? Well, that's different because we're not talking about it. We're going to timelines because our timelines are the ones that create our trauma. They create our fear. They create our guilt. They create our sadness. They create our anger. They create our rage. They create hurt. And we don't realize it because we're not aware of timelines. We're not understanding, okay, this could have been passed down geologically, or this could be from a past life, or this could have happened during the time I was in my mother's womb, or it could have happened 0 to 7. Like, we don't realize this. That one little thing that happened to us when we were a child or beforehand follows us into this until we understand that, oh, we caused this. And then it takes away all that victim and puts you into a solution. And now you're on solution city instead of victim island.
Hmm. I think that is, I think, I really, really, I mean, I really find it fascinating because um, there's so much to explore, when it comes to our brains. I'm not even talking about, like our thoughts or the dreams that we have, but how actively our minds are registering these memories. And it has. And there's something that I've heard, Andrew, is that especially when it comes to healing, revisiting our past, it can be very um, tricky. It can trigger emotions, or it can make us like too much fixated um, on on healing ourselves. So what would you like, what's your thought about this, that if healing is messy like this, and people say that your past doesn't matter, whoever you are in the present, and that's what matters. Like, these are kind of contradictory. So what's your thought on this?
I mean, people, yeah, that's a good way to live. Living in the present is always better, but also not bottling down your emotions too is good to not do because when you bottle down your emotions, you take that emotion with you wherever you go because we are all energetic beings. So what you're feeling, I'm feeling, what the next person's feeling, it could transfer energies and we not even realize we're transferring energies or even thoughts too. Like because our thoughts, we even transfer our thoughts to each other. Like it's very powerful how it's amazing how powerful we truly are because we don't realize that we are all energetically connected. We all come from the same source. And when our thoughts can influence others, that could be like something from our past, that could be anything. It's just to become aware. Basically, once you become aware of it, that is
Mm.
your that is your goal to become aware. Once you become aware of your thoughts, then you can journal. You can make a one-on-one session with an NLP practitioner. Get to know like basically what these triggers are because triggers are a form of growth. It means you need to start or it means you're still growing. So basically triggers are a good thing now. I used to think triggers were a bad thing for myself, but I'm like, okay, that means I still have to keep growing and I still have to like you never stop learning. You're always evolving. You're like it's like the mind can control you, but you can also work with the mind and not control you, and you can be actually coexisting together and having the same kind of thoughts on the same frequency instead of being unconsciously thinking about all the things that happened in your past. Now that you're aware of it, bring it and do a hypnosis. Go like you don't even have to go through me. There's plenty of hypnotherapists out there. Just try
Mhm.
hypnotherapy, and if it'll work, I guarantee it, because it's a lot better than having to relive trauma over and over again. Because when I wrote my book, that's what I had to do, is relive my trauma. I had to go through all the things that I went through. I had to understand basically why all these things were happening to me. And that was then I realized that my trauma was actually my blessing, because A, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. B, I wouldn't have never started hypnotherapy. I never would have wrote a book, and I never would have started a podcast either, because of my trauma. It was a blessing in disguise. It was actually a gift. And I took it as a curse, but really it was actually a gift that gave me all this knowledge now, and all these healing modalities to use not only on myself but on others.
That's so beautifully put, Andrea. And especially, I really love two things about what you said. Number one is that we are kind of coexisting with our mind here. That it's just not that we are controlling our mind or our mind is controlling you. It's kind of a coexistence that is there. And secondly, I so much agree with you. Like, sometimes, I mean, unfortunately, it can happen with anyone, and I'm not dismissing that. Every time you have to think like um trauma is always good for you, but I think sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise. It can be a blessing in disguise because many a times we kind of stay stuck in that suffering cage, that we have gone through this, everyone or everything is against working against us, so there is no point beyond this. There is no way out here, there is no solution out there. But I think that presence and the healing, it really brings that much needed clarity to look for way out or solutions beyond that point where you are stuck.
Yeah, no, I agree fully. It's the biggest thing you can do is just get to know yourself, get to know the person you are, get to know what bothers you, get to know ask yourself why it bothers you. Start to like actually communicate with yourself, and you'll be surprised, especially when you meditate, when your conscious mind is actually not in the picture and your unconscious mind is in the picture, and you actually start to receive messages, and they're beautiful messages, and they're not these messages we've been telling ourselves for years. Instead, it's the total opposite. They're telling you to stop those messages because it's not uh, it's not serving a purpose anymore. It's time for you to move on from that.
Exactly. Exactly. Beautiful. Andrew, so before we wrap up this conversation, if listeners they would like to connect with you for sharing their thoughts about this discussion, and also they would like to check out your resources and listen to your podcast as well, what would be the best medium?
Oh, you can use Instagram. It's got all my so it's at Beyond Transcendence with Andrew, and it's got all the major platforms on there. So you just click on that, and then there's a thing called Zazam, and it'll take you to the page where my book's at. It'll take you to my website, it'll take you to my YouTube page, my Spotify, and you'll get it all there. And it's been a pleasure, Sana, and I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise here, Andrew. And I must really, really thank you for such a profound discussion and giving us a way out to look into our inner mirrors. I think, you know, listeners, talking with Andrew, it really, really reminds me that mirrors don't judge, they just reveal. And whether we look away or look closer, it determines what happens next. So thank you so much, Andrew. This was such a beautiful, beautiful conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. And to all the listeners, keep looking inward, but don't forget to live outward too. And healing isn't about erasing the cracks in the glass. It is about realizing those cracks let light through. Until then, this has been The Mindful Living, and I'm your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.